see Mary. Mary Austin, would you like to ask?
Yeah, I just put my camera on because I think that's just a bit nicer. You can see me. That was amazing. Thank you so much. I feel better almost. I feel like more upright for just listening to that. It kind of, just sort of reminded me of all the lovely walks that, I've been on, and see like litter picking and just stuff, that you just get out, and how amazing it is. I live in Bude, I just cannot get over how lovely this place is. So it just sort of took me outside. Yeah. I've got quite a lot of questions, but I'll just do one because I'm sure other people will pick up on sort of some of the more common ones. I'm just wondering about, because, you cannot be everywhere all the time, about sort of how you facilitate the groups. Because I think that, one of the things that struck me was, this George Eustace, and I've seen this several times. Oh, get out for a 10-minute walk in nature and you'll all feel much better. Well, having had a period of anxiety a couple of months back, that just wasn't true. I had to work really hard to stop worrying while I was out. So I think, you're absolutely right. This kind of facilitation is important. And I wondered whether, how you kind of get people who've been on your course or other people to sort of think about how you would facilitate that. So thinking, for example, as we work with people living with cancer, but also people, say, living with dementia or any other long-term condition. If you're going out with a friend or as a kind of partnership or son, daughter, or whatever, how could you, or can you teach people to sort of facilitate their walk so they don't just walk along the stream going, oh yeah, well, about your next appointment, yeah, well, how are you feeling today, all of that kind of in your head worries stuff. How could you sort of facilitate? Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you, Mary, and that's a really good question, and just actually highlights that I forgot to mention something in my talk, so thank you. So we introduce core routines as part of our facilitated sessions, and these are very well recognised ways to support a deeper connection to nature. So it's important to mention really that, we can only do so much to support people when we're in the woods together. We can have very, very positive outcomes, but actually it is about individuals practicing some of the routines that we introduce on an ongoing basis. So for example, as I said, I always do a grounding with a poem. That may not be something that people can necessarily facilitate by themselves, but what I would always recommend doing is that kind of process, particularly if you're finding yourself in a kind of anxious or stressed state, to stop, to breathe, and to really notice your feet on the ground and start connecting into your senses, to try and move away from the thought processes that can be quite dominating, and to really notice what's around you. So that's something you can do for yourself, you can do with others when you're on a walk. But one of the other routines that we know has one of the most positive outcomes is something called a sit spot. And that again is really about building relationship. So the idea is that you find a space close to your home, usually no more than a 5-minute walk, so that you don't have, excuses when you're tired to not be able to visit it. And ideally, if you can visit every day, for 15 minutes a day as a minimum, but obviously more than that, there's no maximum. And you start building relationship with place. And when you're in your sit spot, you're not doing anything apart from taking notice, apart from connecting through all of your different senses to that space, and kind of really building up a picture of how that space changes seasonally. Which in itself can be hugely helpful for people that are struggling, with anxiety or depression, because actually nature mirrors to us all of the time that things have changed, that things are always shifting and there's kind of constant cycles. So actually that is one of the key ways that we would ask people to support their own well-being through nature, and to continue that. It's really a lifelong practice with your sit spot. So There are other things that we do in our sessions. So kind of, again, getting people into their bodies, movement. We build fire, which again, you know, that can be a huge way to improve people's confidence and skills. And really what we're trying to do is help people foster a sense of being at home in nature. So removing some of those kind of fears and anxieties about the unknown, including things like foraging. So Alice is a very knowledgeable forager, and we tend to bring that into our sessions as well, really bringing in that kind of sensory relationship with nature. So I hope that answered your question, Mary, but thank you. That was a really good question.
Yeah, I think it's kind of given me some ideas about sort of, yeah, you know, if you've kind of got that, as you say, that sort of process, if rather than going out and just spending your time, oh, I'm out the house, now I'm free to worry, you know, I go out the house to actually do something. Because I think that, you know, to get away sometimes from your own emotional stuff, I think it helps to just get on and do something practical, because sometimes that's sort of, you know, people are afraid of their emotions and afraid of their thoughts, but they're all right with the stuff. They're all right with the practical, you know, I'll just dig this, or I'll just, you know, deadhead this. But, you know, if you haven't got that, so some kind of process, I think is really, really good. It kind of, you know, it's a bit interesting, isn't it? Oh, you know, people being at home in nature. I've never worried about that. And it's kind of a good reminder that actually for some people being okay with big open spaces and with nature is not how they've been brought up. So it's a good reminder of that. No, thanks, Sarah.
Well, and actually, Mary, sorry, just to follow up that point, one of the really interesting things actually that's come out of the University of Derby's research is about the as I said, these 5 pathways, and actually when they looked at other ways that people can engage with nature. So for example, conservation work, you know, is really, really positive, really, really needed. And I think many others would make an assumption that really creates this kind of sense of relationship and this sense of connection, and that you get the same outcomes, the same health outcomes by spending time doing a conservation project that you would, for example, doing a nature connection session. And what they've found is that isn't really the case. And that's partly because, you know, it's very task focused, and it's not so much necessarily about taking time to notice or building relationship. So one of the things that we feel really strongly about is marrying those two up. You know, we need conservation work. Conservationists tend to be some of the most passionate environmentalists in some respects, but actually what you need is more and more kind of connection and relationship building. So doing some conservation work where you might stop and really, you know, smell the flowers, or really explore the bit of work, land that you're working on. So that can be really important as well.
Thank you, Mary, for the question, and thanks, Mary Lunnan, for your connections, which you put in the chat. I don't know if you would like to, or maybe she's already left. But if others would also like to ask questions, or even just introduce yourselves and say a bit about what you do and how you connect with nature, either professionally or personally, please do so. Amy Grand, would you like to join or contribute?
Hello.
Hi.
I've switched everything off. You can see me and hear me. Hi. So I just wanted to say hi, I'm Amy, and I'm a solution-focused hypnotherapist like Adam is. And this is the first time I've managed to get here, but wanted to for a while. It's absolutely fascinating. I love hearing about Nature Connects as well. And the thing you just said about a sit spot then is fantastic, and it's something I'll really take away to work with my clients with. I often recommend sort of mindfulness techniques and grounding techniques, but I haven't come across a sit spot, so that's a lovely one. Thank you. But the question I had was about a friend of mine actually, she's called Claire Wally, and she's just started another nature CIC called Choose Nature. Mm-hmm. And she's based over in St Austell at Wheel Martin, and I just wondered if you'd made any connections with her yet.
Yes, thank you, Amy. Yeah, Claire and we haven't managed to speak on the phone yet, but as I said, as part of this kind of network that we're building, we put a shout out across as many avenues as we could, really, to ask for organisations to come forward that might be interested in joining. Because I think one of the issues in Cornwall is there isn't a lack at all of these type of interventions, but actually they do tend to be very small organisations that are focused on being outside. You know, they don't necessarily have the money or the time to, you know, to do lots of work on their marketing. And actually this feels really important to bring together some of those smaller organisations. We're a very small organisation ourselves, but luckily through doing a crowdfunder last year and through support from TEVI and different organisations, we've kind of been quite lucky that we feel like our profile has been raised quite high because we've been able to kind of get out to things like this. Thank you, Adam. And lots of different network meetings. But, you know, if any of you know of organisations that are offering this type of work, please do ask them to get in touch and we can talk to them about joining this network.
That's great. I'll let Claire know. Actually, I'm swimming with her later, so I'll tell her to give you a call. Hopefully you'll be able to catch up. Thank you.
Would that be in a natural environment, Amy? A swimming pool, the sea?
The sea. In the sea. Yeah. Hopefully without a wetsuit.
Yeah. And speaking of solution-focused hypnotherapy, I was struck listening to Sarah talking about how much imagery we use in various language patterns that we might use, and how strong a theme, both when conducting hypnosis, but also in hearing back reported from clients what really works for them.
Absolutely.
Woods, nature is the strongest theme.
Absolutely. Even when you're thinking about, you know, the suggestions we use and everything, the theme is just runs through constantly, doesn't it? And I think actually Claire and I have talked about using solution focused hypnotherapy in nature. So I think we might be collaborating at some point to try and do something like that. Yeah, as soon as I can get myself organized.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Amy. I can see Andrew has his hand up, but Maria Faulkner also had her hand up. So Maria, I'll come to you and then maybe Andrew afterwards.
Okay, lovely. Have we lost Sarah though?
Well spotted. Yes, we have.
I thought she'd frozen for a moment. Actually, well, I'll share this as Archie comes back. Because I didn't have my video on, I dashed off to get a book. She might have read it anyway, and some of the rest of you might, but it just sprung to mind. It's a book called The Moth Snowstorm, Nature and Joy, and it's by Michael McCarthy. I'll put it in the chat in a minute, but I'm on my second read. I've got a whole collection of different books I'm reading, environmentally based, and some of them I do, you know, you can read 2 or 3 times and something new springs out, can't you? But this one, the thread all the way through is this connection between nature and joy, and it sounded very similar to what Sarah was talking about, is that it's a particular type of engagement, and that's what he invites the reader to do. So yeah, I'll pop that in the chat as a book. If people haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. Sarah's come back on, just going to check she can hear us. I'll try my question and see what happens, Sarah, because I went on the website, and yet thanks, loved that, and that really helped understand. It's even more, isn't it, when somebody actually talks about the work they're doing. Great work. I was just thinking about any costs to clients, or if any of your work is fully funded.
Hi, can anyone?
Oh, she can't hear us.
Hear me? Yeah.
We just about heard that, Sarah, but it sounds like you might not have heard Maria while she was talking. So it's a bit interrupted still.
No, I can't.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Is that any better?
That's much better, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Okay. Well, I'll just launch in, Maria, and answer your question, because that's a really important one. So we, as I said, we did a crowdfunder last year as part of setting the business up. And we were really lucky to fundraise £10,000 at that point, including some money from the Council Social Inclusion Fund. So we have basically managed so far to fully fund places for anyone on our programmes that want them. And that has been the majority of people. I don't think we've actually had anyone that's been able to pay for their own place on a course so far. The sessions tend to work out about £30 per session. So it's not a huge amount, and particularly in comparable to some other kind of therapeutic processes. But what we really wanted to make sure was that we were as accessible as possible. So as I said, we've got that funding and have been able to fully fund places for people, but we're also waiting for the outcome of some other funding bids that hopefully will secure us being able to again to offer those fully funded places to people. So what we always say to anyone is just to get in touch if they're interested in the programme, or there's someone they're working with that might be interested. And we will just have that conversation. If we can fund it, that's brilliant. If the organisation that's referring can provide any funding, that's great as well. But we just look at it on a case-by-case basis, really.
That's great. Thanks, Sarah. I think that helps a lot. And I think the other area, obviously smiling to myself because with your other hat on, we're both working together anyway, so you know about the Macmillan Partnership. But I'm thinking, even though that has a life expectancy through to next March at this time, I think this would be a very interesting one to talk about across to Macmillan, because with the mental health issues and the continued isolation of those who have cancer, in a cancer situation where they may still be very afraid to reconnect, or thinking, where can I reconnect that will really benefit me? This might be something that would be a conversation for the future. So just throwing that in there as a possibility.
Brilliant. Thank you, Maria. Very happy to have that conversation. Just to add, actually, when we did the crowdfunder last year, there were, I mean, it was really about offering our sessions to anyone, but there were some particular groups actually that I will just mention because some of you may work with them. So we really wanted to give back to some of the groups that have probably been impacted the most because of COVID and lockdown. So we offer free sessions to carers. So that's just if someone has a caring responsibility, that we don't need to have that conversation about whether they can have, you know, whether they can pay for it themselves. We can offer funding. And that's also the same for frontline workers, which, you know, which I'm sure would include all of you. So, you know, looking at some of the key workers that have really, aside from how much they've given to so many people, the kind of the stress and burnout impact of the last year, you know, has been huge. So actually, we really want to make sure that people that feel that they need that kind of respite and that support is something that we can offer as well.
Thank you. Andrew.
Yeah, hi everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Andrew. I'm a change coach at the fantastic Newquay Orchard. I'm also very involved, sort of starting to become our sort of health stroke nature liaison person. So it's going to be my brief taking it forward. Sarah, I mean, yes, and yes. Dead simple. That's what we do every day. It's what we do at the Orchard. We you know, use nature. My particular program is called Sustainable Lives. It's all about using nature to get people back into the sustainable cycle of the world and not this mad world that we live in. Kind of the real question I had was, and it was interesting that you talk about George Useless. I don't test that, man. I do a lot with social prescribers. Social prescribers have been a real leap forward in terms of, if you like, green and nature prescription. But we still have a real problem with the statutory services. For example, for us, Newquay Health Centre, we have 2 GPs in Newquay Health Centre that will prescribe people or refer people to us direct from the desk, which is fantastic. They know about us, they know what we do. The rest of the GPs don't bother. They might send someone to the social prescriber, but it doesn't tend to work. So I didn't know if you had any experience down around the Camborne area of the statutory services and how they refer into you, and have they actually clicked onto the benefits of what we're doing yet?
Thank you, Andrew. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Orchards. I absolutely love it as a project, and you know, the way that you're developing and what you're achieving in the community is incredible. So yeah, thank you for everything that you guys do there. And yeah, that is the key question, isn't it, about how you get referrals, how you get funding, and how you evaluate. Those are kind of the three issues that kind of came up when we had our initial meeting as a network. And I do think one of the best ways to face that is about having collaborative working. So you know, really creating that strong voice, getting in with the networks, that, so for example, this network, the Cornwall network, you know, just really talk, you know, bringing as much information as possible, and dialogue about what all of our different organisations are offering, trying to build links with the council, with relevant departments in the council, trying to build links with the health service. So whether that's kind of going from the clinical commissioning group kind of level, and then hoping that that will be fed down. But it's interesting, we've had the same challenges. We're only really three programs in of delivering what we do. The first two programs, really, most of those people were self-referrals that I think had found out about us on Facebook or found out about us through different routes. And we had one person referred via Pentreath. Pentreath did actually fund that person, but I think that was really quite difficult for their the caseworker to get that funding. They did manage to secure it. But this programme that we've just started, 3 out of the 4 people that are coming have come from social prescribers. So we put as much, we send stuff out in the interagency networks, particularly the mental health interagency network. And we just kind of keep chasing people up and, you know, trying to build those personal relationships, and also offering tasters. So Alice recently delivered a short session for a group of social prescribers in Cornwall, and we immediately saw an impact where more people were starting to come onto our programme. So I think a lot of it is about people understanding what you do. And we are up against this idea that being out in nature is enough. So actually, why would, I've had this conversation with social prescribers before, why would they refer someone to a programme that has a cost attached when they could just ask that person to go to the park? So it's kind of really breaking through that misinformation and giving people a feel for what we do and how it works and why we do it.
Yeah, we don't sort of tend to have a massive problem with referrals as such. Like I said, I mean, you know, we've got fantastic interagency sort of referral mechanisms. We work with all the other agencies, etc., etc. We've had the social prescribers down to the Orchard. We give them sort of orientation days. We'll do another one once, you know, the world loses this madness and we're allowed to do it. And we do the same with the work coaches at the job centre. You know, we want people to know what they're referring to and what the benefits of it are, so they get it when they refer into us. But the real stumbling block at the moment for us is that statutory service link. You know, the social prescribers, awesome, amazing. Let's keep developing that. The referral routes, that's amazing. Let's keep developing it. The network, yeah, I'll tell me to sign up. I'll sign up. I'm all for that. But wouldn't it be so important if a GP could sit there and go, one, a GP that would understand what we do is about, and 2 could go, do you know what? I think you need to go and talk to these people. He sends an email and boom, we've got it. Yeah. And that removes so much hassle from the system and the network. Most importantly, it removes a whole pile of hassle for the person they're referring.
Yeah.
And they get to come to us and we get to, you know, work our magic, if you like. So yeah, anyway, that's what I see as the big challenge. I was just interested to see how you saw it as well. And likewise, I could talk about what we do forever, so I should probably start now.
Thanks, Andrew. You're on mute, Adam.
Thank you, everyone, or whoever pointed that out. Amy Grand, I was just saying you still got your hand up. I'm not sure if you wanted to contribute on that topic or if that was from before.
No, I'd like to say something about that. I just wanted to pick up on that point that Andrew just made about working with the GPs, but specifically working with the council, because before I became a hypnotherapist, I was a social worker working for Cornwall Council for a long time, and I used to do care planning for my clients. I work with people with older adults and with people with learning disabilities all over the age of 18. And we just did not have the resources out there to be able to do good care planning. And I just wondered whether Sarah had been in touch with the council to discuss whether the Nature Connects programme can become part of a care planning process for those individuals that social workers and care coordinators are care planning for.
Oh, Amy, thank you. No, that isn't something that we've explored actually, and it would be great to, if you've got any ideas of who might be a good person for us to talk to about that, that would be really helpful. I think as I said, we've built up some links as part of Mental Health Awareness Week. We did run a session for staff in the council that the Occupational Health Department arranged. Right. And that was obviously with the hope of really kind of broadening out, the understanding of what we do. But it feels like it's about key people, and sometimes finding those key people that will really get it and really champion what we're doing is a challenge, and it's an ongoing bit of work really. So that is definitely something that we can look into, because I hadn't thought about that myself actually. So thank you, Amy.
Yeah, it's the commissioners within Cornwall Council, and it's a very limited sort of range of resources that they have at the moment, which mainly are like day centres, which a lot have closed, aren't offering a great service anymore, particularly through COVID. Lots of them aren't even open at the moment because they're indoor. And yeah, so because I haven't worked for the council I did go back briefly during COVID, but I have definitely still got some connections, so I may be able to find a name for you of one of the lead commissioners within the council, but I'll have a look into that.
Thank you, Amy. That would be great.
Thank you. And Mary Austin, you also have your hand up. I'd just like to mention that Kirsten also has contributed in the chat a bit of her own experience of how nature has been helpful for her. So you can read that in the chat. Thank you, Kirsten, for that contribution. Feel free to join in as well. But Mary Austin.
Yeah, Sarah, I'm so pleased to hear you mention carers, because I think, there's, with the best will in the world, that often everything sort of treatment, prescribing, anything is often, because we say person-centered, I think sometimes that's taken to mean the person with the condition, and the carer is often secondary to that. So I'm really pleased. So can you just tell me a bit more about that? What's the take-up been for carers? How are they referred, and what kind of reaction have you had from them?
Thank you, Mary. We actually haven't had anyone that identifies as a carer come on any of our sessions as yet. And I think part of that actually is probably because of people's caring responsibilities to be able to commit regularly at the same time to programs, obviously then has the knock-on effect of making sure that the person they're caring for has that support. Yeah. So we've tried a few different, or we're still trying different ways to engage with carers. At one point, we did send a survey out to ask people, where they'd want something to be delivered, when they might be able to do that. And we didn't get a response. No one completed that survey. And again, I'd imagine, this was probably 6 months ago, and probably many people's situations were very stressful at that time. So we did initially think about arranging a programme specifically for carers. But for the reasons that I just outlined, kind of recognise that may not be very easy to arrange, to find a time that works for everyone. So we've been talking to Kirsty Luxton, who's one of the carers coordinators. Obviously, there's a new carers contract that's just starting with CRCC, so we'll be building kind of more links with them. And really, what we've decided is probably the best way to move forward now is that we will always have a space or a number of spaces available on any programme specifically for carers. So we're just going to keep sending the information out, and hope that someone decides they want to join our programme down the line. And because I think part of it is, once we have one person, this was our experience with Pentreath, once one person that's linked to an organisation comes to us, if they have a positive outcome, which so far everyone seems to have done, that then is like the trailblazer for other people within that organization. So yeah, we're just kind of going to keep offering those spaces and hopefully get some carers along to have that experience.
Yeah, I think, that doesn't surprise me at all. And I think the other thing you're up against is people don't see themselves as a carer. And I think the work of actors, Kerno carers, I'm not sure, about the new contract, I'll look into that, but it is about raising people's awareness that actually, as a carer, in terms of like doing a bit more than you did before for the person that you're supporting, actually you have needs and they are real, and there are things that can help you with your your caring role. So it's like everything, it's complex, isn't it? It's not just a question of saying, oh, you're a carer. Thanks for that. Thank you.
Amy Grand, do you have your hand up still? And then Tamsin will come to you after that.
Yeah, it is me. I only just wanted to add to that as well that the social workers and case coordinators within the council do the care plans for carers as well as adults, or they do the referrals for those care plans for carers. So they are they have a vast bank of names of all the carers in Cornwall. So again, they're good people to speak to.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy. Tamsin.
Hi, just wondering, when it comes to carers, are we talking just the registered carers, or are we talking the sort of league of carers that aren't actually recognised formally, but still do the caring duties because maybe they still work, or all of those, sort of other things that negate them from actually getting the carers allowance, which classes them as the registered carer?
Yeah, thank you, Tamsin. Good question. And yeah, it would be both groups. It would be anyone that would self-identify as a carer, which, as Mary just pointed out, some people may not. But we're not assessing people's criteria and kind of go, well, are you a carer? You need to prove, that that's the case, or anything like that. It's, as I said, it's really, for us, it's about anyone that our offer resonates with. And yeah, so we'd just have that conversation, really.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, welcome back. Had a great chat in room 2. Sorry for dipping in and out a little bit, but I assume you guys in room 1 had good conversations as well. Wonderful.
Yeah. Good.
And Amy, I don't know if there's anything. Sorry, Amy. I don't know why I think you're leading this talk, but Sarah, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to say to wrap up, or other messages you had. Otherwise, there's a few messages I just want to relay from people that have left and really appreciated your talk, and then to mention the feedback form, a couple of other things to close. But any other comments from you or from others in either of the breakout rooms, since we've got a few minutes left?
See if anyone in the group wants to comment first.
And is there anyone that hasn't connected with anybody else that they're curious who they are and would like to know more? I'm conscious we haven't all had a chance to speak to each other, but the networks and the connections are also important. So where do let us know now.
I guess all I really want to say is, well, thank you to everyone for coming, and yeah, it's just really lovely getting so much kind of insight into people's roles are and how this could, how we work together basically to support people to connect more to nature. And so I would just really invite anyone to get in touch, particularly people that might want to join this network. It's a newly forming network that is going to be molded by all of the people that take part in it. And just to keep having the conversation basically. And thank you for bearing with me with my connectivity issues.
Well done for sticking with it. That was well worth the persistence. Did you already, John Atwood, who's in Bristol, I think, has sent me a message to say he really appreciated your talk. Sorry he didn't manage to interact and he had to leave early, but it was very inspiring to hear what you're up to, Sarah, and great this is developing. He's on a bit of a similar journey in Bristol, having trained adults in forest school for years and been addressing the same questions Thanks very much. And he's joined the Nature and Health Practitioners Network, so that's good.
Brilliant.
Is there a link to the network in Cornwall that we can join, or do you want us to just drop you a line?
Yeah, I mean, I think for now it's being managed by David Tevy, but it's probably best for people to get in touch with me directly, and then I can kind of pass those information and get people added to the mailing list, basically.
Yeah, and have you put your email somewhere?
Yeah, I'll do that now.
Yeah, pop it in the chat, and then we can just click directly on it, and that'll make it really easy for us to connect directly. Equally, if anyone else would like to put their LinkedIn link or their own email address, if you type an email address directly into the chat and press return, it often presents a link that we can then just click on, and without having to type or copy anything, we can just email each other. The same with LinkedIn links and other web links if you want to. Otherwise, thank you all very much indeed for joining. It is the connections and everyone that joins these networks that makes it work, because it's complex, but it doesn't mean that we can't do something about it. We're not solving problems directly, but the conversations that happen here, and more importantly, the conversations that happen elsewhere, are what makes things happen. This is just a small part of that network of networks. So thank you all very much for making the time to join and contribute and have good conversations. Thank you very much indeed, Sarah, for persisting and for connecting with us from your natural environment, wherever you are. And a round of applause there showing from Maria. Thank you very much. And we have recorded this session, so if you'd like to recap any of it, or if you'd like to share it with anybody else, I will be putting I'll slightly edit out bits and put the recordings on YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel, Cornwall Festivals, and all of our previous talks from this year and also some from last year are on there. And they're all divided into more bite-sized chunks, so you can dip in and out and find some playlists for the different topics that we've had, which are quite varying. So I'll put them up on there. Otherwise, it'd be good to keep in touch, let anyone else know. We will be continuing this series of talks. We don't know who our next talk speaker is actually, but we'll keep you posted. And finally, I've put a link in, but I'll just put another link. I'll just tap it into the chat box again, and you can just directly click on it now. If you've got 2 minutes now, it's really helpful for me and for us as a team to know. I also have 2 colleagues that aren't here today, but Katie and Ian help me to guide Cornwall and help us to evolve. But any thoughts you have, any reflections you have for Sarah or for me, please pop them into that Google form there, which I've just shared. Otherwise, have a very nice morning and a good rest of the week. And very good to see you all here. If anyone else would like to say anything else to close, please wave now. Otherwise, Sarah, huge thanks from us. And we really look forward to being part of your network and connecting with you further and with nature further in the future.
Brilliant. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all very much.
Awesome. Very best, everybody. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Bye for now.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.